Hello and welcome to another Beard Clipper video. In this video I'm going to show you very quickly how to put together the Sarissa Roman trading ship. It's a fun build, it's a quick build. There are some gotchas, I made a few mistakes which you'll see, but hopefully you'll enjoy it, and maybe if you do build along, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your experiences if you have done this kit as well yourselves. Don't forget to subscribe, don't forget to like, drop me a comment as I've just said, and enjoy the video. As I push forwards with my lake build, very slowly of course, but as I am, I picked this up quite a little while ago and decided that this was going to go on and be part of that build. And I think it's going to be relatively simple to make, famous last words. So I thought I'd try and get this done. I'm feeling quite uninspired by some of the projects I'm working on at the moment, and so I think this might kick me back into gear, so fingers crossed. So let's get this open. So we've got some things dropped out, but let's have a look and see what the instructions are like. There's actually quite a lot of instructions. I was thinking this might be quite quick. It looks like it's actually going to be able to sit flush with the water, which is good because I was thinking about having this sat on top of the lake, being able to come into the little harbour, little pier. So it looks like we've got quite a few instructions to go through. You create the keel upside down, and then put the deck on, and then shape the hull panels around, and then put the command deck on, and then build the masts. So yeah, there's a lot of pictures, but it's just nice and clear rather than it being massively complicated. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to sit and look at this just for a few minutes, work it out, and then get started on assembling it, and I'll bring you along for that. I really enjoy these. I'm looking forward to this quite a lot. So let's get stuck in. Hold the boat keel, which is A, upside down. Glue and place the hull ribs, which is all of these, B. Note the middle rib, C, is different. So that's interesting. So I'll have to have a quick look to find out which one C is. And then it says the diagrams, and then glue the base panel D, which is this, to the keel only. So there we are. Turn the assembly over and place on a flat surface. Use a 90-degree piece of scrap to help position. So what we're looking at doing is ending up with this keel sitting on top of this here, and with the ribs in, and then I need to make sure that it's all 90 degrees and smart. So what I'm going to do is cut everything out and then start to get gluing things together. So I'll pop some music on and we'll get this done. That was a lot fiddlier than I expected it to be, but we got there. So the first thing we're going to do is I did identify C, which is the middle one, which I believe goes in the middle there, potentially. So that has a little kind of cutout just at the edge there. You can see that's how it's different from all the others. So what we're going to do is I have my PVA, just gather all these bits together. I have my PVA here, I have a plate to put some PVA onto, probably too much but I can always put it back, and I have a old paintbrush, and that's what I generally use for this. So what we're going to do is going to come along and we're just going to drop PVA inside each of the grooves into which the ribs sit. As simple as this. There's nothing magical about this technique. Okay, that's done. And then with that done, we can come along and we can find which bits go where. So the first one that goes in is that one, which is the narrow tool one. And that needs to click in clearly. And then we have the other end that goes here, and they are all the same. So yeah, I will now go along and fit all these ribs. So again, I'll either skip ahead or put some music on or something. There we are. So that was easy enough. The only fiddly bit was that central bit where they're quite close together and my fat fingers are just too fat to deal with it. So with that done, what we do, I believe, is we sit this now and it should slot in to those grooves, and all you're doing, it says, is glue the base panel D to the keel only, so not to the ribs. So the ribs need to remain a little bit flexible, it seems. So what we're going to do that is we're going to come along here and we're just going to add our PVA basically to these little tabs that stick down, because that's going to be the best way for us to make sure that we're not accidentally gluing the ribs. So we'll do the one side, very carefully turn it over and do the other side. Okay, and I don't know that it's the difference. Well, that's got 2 and that's got 3 to the front. So I don't know whether this is, don't know whether it's different or not. This could end up being wrong. But yeah, we'll just get that in there. There we are. Cool. Right, so I'm going to set that somewhere to dry, and I'll be back in a second for the next step. I'm going to do the I'm going to assemble the mast next. I'm going to get that done right now. So I'll set this somewhere to dry and I'll be back in a second. So we're jumping ahead a bit here to the mast. However, I think I can assemble it separately, and that will save me a little bit of time. I've got a little bit of time now, and then I need to wrap up my hobby in this evening. I'm not going to film cutting all these out because that was really dull the last time, took ages. But basically we're going to be cutting out everything that's in this part of the sprue, because this here is the command deck, which I might also stick together now, because then it's very much, no, I'm going to leave that. I'm going to leave the command deck. So yes, I'm going to cut out the everything for the mast, and then I'll bring you back when I come to assembly. So all that's cut out, and now I've been looking at the instructions a little bit, the destructions, and it's a little bit confusing. So the first thing to do is not confusing, and it says to glue these 2 little panels together. So we're just going to put double glue in there and set them on top of each other like that. So that's the first thing it says. This is the 2 center alignment panels. Glue them together. So there we are. Next it says glue the center alignment block and upper block Q into the base mast panel R. Yeah, it doesn't look quite the same as it does on the diagram. Basically, on the diagram, we don't have this little notch at the bottom. If we have a look, if I bring that to the camera, what you can see is that you have a square bottom, and then the longer ones, S and T, the mast panel over the blocks and onto panel R. They don't have that little knock at the bottom, which is a bit strange. So I'm a little bit confused here, because let me show you what I think. What I think it's saying you should do is glue that into there first, and then what it's saying is that this should come down over the top, but it doesn't really make much sense to me how that's working out. So what I'm going to do is have another quick play around with this. This definitely needs to glue together, so I'm going to read the instructions a bit more and try to work out what's going on, because yeah, it doesn't actually match what I think it should do. So yeah, I'll be back in a sec. Okay, I've had a bit of a fettle, and I think I've worked it out. And I've worked it out by use of part Q, which is the upper block. So what you can see here is that the upper block fits in and slots through, and if we offer that here up and push that into place there, then you can see that that's going to sit like this, which I think is what it should be doing. And I think then what that probably tells me that this lower block should probably also do this, slide in and sit right in. And that fits a lot better with what I think it looks like it should do than what the instructions seem to suggest. So I'm going to do that gluing now. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a couple of things. First of all, we're going to put some glue, not that much, way too much. Put some glue there, and also put it into the holes that we're going to use. And then what we're going to do is we're going to come along with this upper one and position that, and that's going to give us our first position. So that should slot in all and go all the way through. There we are. Bit fiddly. But there it is. And that now means that this, which is glued already, can also go in and hopefully slot all the way through. There we are, that's better. There we are, cool. So that's how it goes. So let me just explain what I did. I'll probably sped all that up. This has a tall end and a short end on its tabs. You want the short end at the bottom and the tall end at the top. That will help you to position it correctly, and that now is slotted right through. So what we're going to do now is we're going to glue this panel on and slot both of the, so glue this to this. And then finally this panel can get glued on the other side as well. That was a little bit fiddly, and the instructions on this bit are not very accurate. It looks like they maybe have updated the kit and not updated their instructions, which is something that they do sometimes, I've found, Sarissa. And then last but not least, we have these little bits here which get glued on around the sides, around here. There we are. Wow, that was far more difficult than I expected it to be. I'm going to clamp that now and leave it. I'm not going to do the spar. I'll work that out when I come to put that actually onto the body of the ship, onto the hull. But yeah, we'll just put lots of clamps on, as I like to do. And that will mean that it's definitely going to dry nice and securely. So yeah, there we are. That was fun. Glad I started that. Harder than I expected it to be when I first picked it up, but they often are, aren't they, these kits? But I've managed it, so there we are, look at that. Brilliant. Right, let's get that done, and I'll be back to that probably tomorrow. Let me open this clip by saying that I am officially an idiot, not for one reason, but for two reasons this time. First of all, I already filmed this, but when I got to the end of it, I realised that I'd muted the microphone. Now, normally, I would just go and do a voiceover. However, now we come to the reason why I'm an idiot the second time. Can you see what is wrong with that? I have the ribs in the wrong place. I didn't even realise, I didn't notice. Obviously I was rushing too much for some reason maybe. But it looks like I've made a boo-boo here. I think this rib here should go here, and this rib here should go there. So what this means is I'm attempting to put the deck panel on, and it won't fit because this rib here is too short, and obviously that one being too long isn't so much of an issue, but yeah, you can see that it kind of butts up against it here. So I deleted the previous clip, which I don't do very often because it was just pointless having it. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this. I'm not going to throw it away, which is what I wanted to do first off. I was like, ah! So I have my little razor saw that I can use. And let me show you how I'm going to dig this out of a total disaster. I hope I may make it worse. But anyway, fingers crossed. So I'm going to cut off the rib which is in the wrong place and too wide. Okay, so this rib here, we're going to cut this off. Like that. Okay, and then what we're also going to do is we're going to cut off this rib which is in the wrong place. And this is going to be slightly harder, but we can do it at this angle. The reason it's quite hard is because it's going to try to bend, and then it will break because MDF is a little bit brittle at times. And then this, I got a new Citadel handle because I loved the old one so much, the other one so much, and I wanted one upstairs and one downstairs. And unfortunately, the one that's arrived is rubbish. It really loosens a lot. Anyway, so we're going to cut that off. Like that. And that means, while it's not going to be absolutely perfect, it shouldn't matter. It means that I can actually now slot that in place, pretty much right in place like that. And that's going to work perfectly. There we are. So that is how I am going to save my mistake. It looks like I might actually have put this one in the wrong place as well. I really have not paid enough attention when I've been putting the ribs in. If you have a look now, you can see that that one is slightly over as well. So I'm going to glue this in place, just a little bit of PVA glue, slot that in, and hopefully that will be good enough. If I can spot the other place where that one should have gone, it really is starting to look a lot like I'm not going to be able to save this very easily. So I'll get that done off camera, get that glued in place, and then I'll bring you back for the next step. Or I might just straight away burn it and buy a new one and start over and pay more attention to where the ribs go. But if you are building this, it says, note the middle rib is different. It's not just the middle rib, which is different. They're all different. What you really should do is when you're assembling the heel, make sure to have the base panel to offer it against. Otherwise, you might do what I've done and you'll end up with them in the wrong place. Because, yeah, they're not all the same. Anyway, onwards and forever upwards. Operation Save the Boat continues. So that's gone on okay. I'll probably end up ordering another one of these and doing it right. But that's going to be fine. You're not even going to notice it. So the next step I'm going to do is putting the sides of the boat on. So that's these bits here, which you can see now. So we'll just need to very carefully and quickly separate these from the rest of the cardboard sprue. And what it says to do is to do one, make sure it's in place first, and then do the other. So shape the hull panels, glue the hull panels in place, use the locating lug here on the centre rib to first fix the panels. Place the hull frame on a flat surface and glue the panel for the ribs. Glue one end at a time to ensure the card glues to the ribs and is flush with the base underside. So let's see how well we can do this. So first of all, we can see the lug there. So what it says to do is to basically glue that on, then run it round and do it like that. Now I'm actually going to use super glue for this because PVA is going to dry too slowly. So let me grab the super glue. So I've managed to glue the lid of the super glue shut, which happens quite often, which is quite annoying. So I've just had to take the lid off and I'll apply it like that. So what we'll do is we'll put a little bit of super glue, or as much as we can, a little bit of super glue, using it like this. Actually, I'll put some on there and then I'll get a toothpick. And what we'll do is we'll apply that to the rib, centre rib, get it in place, and then apply it at the end. And then that will allow us to then maybe come along later with some PVA and secure it at the bottom. So I'm going to get a toothpick and I'm going to apply the super glue that we just dropped into that plate there, and we're going to put it up around the central locating lug, like so. And actually, you know what, we're going to run it all the way along as well, even though we probably shouldn't. Might regret this. Oh well, you need shipwrecks as well as good boats, don't you? There we are. So what we're going to do is we're going to push that on and press it round. Now you notice I have only done one end like that. I am following their advice to get one end done first And with the super glue, that glues a lot quicker. So what we can then do is come along and apply the super glue to the rest of the frame. It dries so quickly I could probably, when I do the other side, actually apply the super glue across the whole of the base. But we shall see. There we are. So we've got some super glue there, all nicely in place. And what we'll do is we'll press that in as well. And that is then nice and flat, though it hasn't stuck at that end. A little bit more down that prow end. There we are. Excellent. So I will now do the other side, and then I'll bring you back when I come to the next step, which is going to be doing the deck housing. Back to this, and I've saved it, I think. I mean, it's obviously got some issues around its fit of the edge of the boat. However, I think it's going to look absolutely fine, so I'm not too worried. So we're on to nearly the final step of the assembly. I've already popped them out from the sprue because it takes quite a bit of time and it's a bit boring, and I didn't want to just have lots and lots of footage of me popping things off the sprue. And what we're going to do now is we're going to glue the command deck to the tower sides. So this here is the command deck, and these are the tower sides. So a little bit of PVA on my plate, put that on the sides where it's going to engage. There we are. And then that side goes there, like so. And that side, a little bit more PVA on that side. Just a touch more there. A little more PVA there, and then that side goes like that. So we have our command deck glued to the tower sides. It then says glue the assembly to the deck, which is also a nice simple thing to do. So what we'll do is we will pop some glue on the bottom here, and then slot that into the little slots that are in the deck waiting to accept it. So that's that side in. Just make sure this side gets engaged as well. There we are. We are in. Great stuff. Yep, that's in. Good. Okay. So then you glue the step risers in place and glue the card steps in place. So what we have here is a little panel that's going to go in the front here. And so this goes like that. So we'll glue those two in place. And then we have a little bit of cardboard over here, which is the steps, just there. So I will pop them out as well. But first of all, I will glue these two in. If I hadn't screwed up on the ribs, this would have been a really good build, and it's really easy. So now you've seen me make that mistake on the ribs, you can go and buy this kit, and you'll find that it's a really easy kit, and only an idiot would make a mistake on it. So there we are. Public service for you. So let's pop these steps out and then get them glued in. So it looks like all the steps are identical, so I don't need to worry about making a fool of myself, I don't think. I can just slot them in like that. It says glue the assembly into position under the tower deck. Push it back evenly as far as possible. So that's what it says to do once this is assembled. So let's get these in. And then, once this is all dried overnight, it'll be ready to start painting, which is going to be the fun bit. So, well, I say going to be the fun bit, it's actually all been good fun build apart from the mistake I made. But even that I managed to save without it being too horrendous. So yeah, I really am enjoying this. Tell you what I'm most looking forward to is seeing it on my lake build. Right, so push it back as far as you can, it says. So that's a little bit fiddly because of various things, like being a klutz, as you've just seen. But we're going to push it back like that. And that now is going to need to be let to dry. So the only final thing left to do now here is to glue this in place, the actual mast in place, and that should slot in there. However, I'm not going to do it yet. I'm going to wait for this to dry, so I'll do that a bit later on this evening maybe. But that was a nice easy assembly, and it looks really nice, and it is really coming together, this. So all we've got left to do is to put the mast in place and then the spar in place as well if I wish, and then when that's done, decide whether I'm going to put any rigging on or any kind of sail and then paint it. Now I might end up painting the mast separately to the boat just so that I can get in a little bit easier on the decking. But yeah, we're getting close to that painting, so I'm going to let that all dry now, and I'll bring you along for the next step when I get to it. I've let that dry for like a week, haven't touched it, so I've been busy on other things. But what I want to do now is get some paint on this. Now my plan is to I've decided to leave the mast so that I can remove it, because then I can have it either at sail or I can have it in a harbour looking a bit kind of dishevelled. I'll put the cross beam on potentially, I'm not sure, I haven't decided that yet. But what I'm going to do now is just put some basic burned raw umber, I always say that wrong, raw umber over the entirety of it, because that is the colour of the wood that I want to go with. So we're just going to literally slaver that on. Now, sharp-eyed amongst you will have noticed that I've not put any planks, or I've decided against putting planks on with coffee stirrers, and yeah, I just don't think it needs it. The detail of the planks comes through even when you paint it thin enough. You can still see the planks coming through, so it would be an extra step which I don't want to do on this build. So I will get that done. The entirety of this is going to be covered in this paint, and then when that's dry I can come along and I can pick out some details to make it a little bit smarter if I want to. We will see. But this has been a good build, quick. And it's going to look very nice on the lake, but the lake is going to take months to finish, so it'll be a while before you see this set on that. But anyway, I'll stop muttering now and I'll just get this done. And there we are. That didn't take very long at all. So I'll let that dry and then I'll come back with the extra colours. I am going to actually, having said that, quickly paint up this as well. Cool, so I'll let those two dry and then we'll come back and have a think about what other colours I might want to do for detailing. But that's looking really cool. Very pleased with that. Next step for this is the dry brush, which I'm going to do with my Africa paint, which I'm really liking to use a lot for these sorts of things at the moment. So we'll take most of the paint off on a paper towel and then we'll just come along, and what this will do is it will just bring out a little more of a lighter colour, but not too light, so it'll still be a nice dark paint, nice dark brown, and it will also really bring the highlights out across the whole boat. So I'll get that done. And there we are. That, if I zoom in, is looking lovely. Well, there we are. I hope you enjoyed that. I really enjoyed the build. I probably will end up picking myself up a couple of these kits and making a few more. It really does turn out very nicely. I'm very pleased. It was so simple to make, and without the mistakes I made, it will be even better. I might in the future as well do the extra decking and make some more decorations on it. But for a very basic build, which is going to be enough to populate a harbour, or even if you're doing something properly naval, I think that's a pretty good option. So thanks for watching. Pop a comment below, I'd love to hear from you, and please stay healthy, stay safe and stay well.